Kindness. It's the one virtue almost every culture celebrates, the one trait we were taught from a young age to prioritize. We're told to be sweet, be generous, be accommodating, to say yes, to avoid conflict, to make sure others are okay, even if that means we're not. But here's the hard truth. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being kind and started being invisible. We traded authenticity for approval, boundaries for acceptance, truth for silence. Inspired by the transformative work of Dr. Brené Brown, this episode is an invitation, a challenge even, to re-examine the difference between true kindness and the exhausting habit of people-pleasing. Because real kindness, it isn't always comfortable, it isn't always soft, and it doesn't always look like being nice. So today, let's explore the deeper truth. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's self-abandonment. And it's time we stopped confusing the two. Insight 1. When kindness becomes a disguise. Let's start with a question. What does kindness mean to you? For most people, kindness brings to mind warmth, generosity, softness, the image of someone who never says no, who's always there for others, who gives and gives and gives, until there's nothing left. We're taught to believe that being kind makes us good, that putting others first is noble, that disappointing others is selfish. But there's something dangerous hiding beneath this well-polished surface. When we stretch ourselves too thin, when we say yes out of fear instead of choice, when we keep the peace at the cost of our peace, we lose something essential. We lose ourselves. Let's be clear, kindness without boundaries is not compassion, it's compliance. It's what happens when we ignore our own needs to make space for someone else's comfort. And we often don't realize we're doing it. We think we're being good people when we bite our tongue, when we cancel our rest to help a friend, when we stay silent to avoid upsetting the room. But ask yourself, did those choices come from love? Or did they come from guilt? From fear? From the belief that you are only lovable if you're easy to be around? Because that's not kindness. That's fear dressed up in a smile. Insight 2. Why we struggle to set boundaries. Why is it so hard to say no? Why does setting a boundary, something that protects our emotional health, feel like a betrayal? The answer lies deep in our wiring as human beings. We are built for connection. We long to be seen, accepted, and loved. And from an early age, we're taught that being agreeable earns us that love, that saying yes makes us worthy, that being easy, helpful, and non-confrontational keeps us safe. So we adapt. We smile when we're tired. We apologize for taking up space. We downplay our needs to avoid looking difficult. Somewhere along the way, we start to believe that the only way to be loved is to stay small. But here's the truth. You don't need to be nice to be loved. You don't need to erase yourself to belong. You don't need to sacrifice your truth to be respected. Love, real love, doesn't ask you to disappear. It welcomes your full, authentic self, boundaries and all. And when we finally understand that, we begin to reclaim the parts of ourselves we once silenced just to be accepted. Insight 3. Boundaries are an act of love. Boundaries often get a bad reputation. They're mistaken for walls, for rejection, or for selfishness. But in truth, boundaries are not a form of distance. They are a form of respect. Respect for others, yes, but also for ourselves. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out. It's about showing up in a way that's sustainable, honest, and rooted in integrity. When we say, "I can't do that right now," or "I need time for myself," we're not pushing others away. We're simply recognizing the limits of what we can give without losing ourselves in the process. Healthy boundaries are not a punishment. They are clarity. They say, "This is where I end and where you begin." They say, "I can love you, but I still need space to breathe." And ironically, the people who truly care about us won't be threatened by that clarity. They'll appreciate it. Because when we communicate our limits with kindness, we build trust. We show others how to love us in ways that don't require us to break ourselves apart. It's important to understand, real kindness includes ourselves. Without that, we're not practicing compassion, we're practicing compliance. Brené Brown puts it best: clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So often, we avoid setting boundaries to avoid conflict, but all we do is delay the conflict and internalize the tension. We carry resentment in our bodies, in our breath, in our nervous system. And that emotional weight eventually comes out through silence, burnout, or even explosive anger. By setting boundaries, we're not being cold, we're choosing to show up whole. And that version of us, the one that's honest, grounded, and emotionally intact, is far more loving than the one who's constantly overextended and secretly exhausted. Insight 4. When kindness hurts more than it helps. There are moments when kindness becomes a mask, a habit we wear not because it's right, but because it's expected. We smile to smooth tension, agree to avoid conflict, and say yes out of fear that no will make us unlovable. But what happens when our kindness starts costing us? What happens when our effort to be the good one becomes the very thing that erodes our well-being? Sometimes kindness is not only unhelpful, it's harmful. It's harmful when we use it to excuse bad behavior, when we keep giving chances to someone who constantly disrespects our time, our energy, or our heart, when we tell ourselves we're being understanding, when really, we're just avoiding the discomfort of standing up for ourselves. It's harmful when it sacrifices our mental health. If being nice leaves us anxious, depleted, or resentful, then it's no longer kindness, it's quiet self-abandonment. True compassion cannot survive in someone who is emotionally starved. You cannot pour from a cup that's always empty. And it's especially harmful when kindness silences our truth. If being kind means swallowing your voice, tolerating what feels wrong, or pretending something doesn't hurt, then that isn't love, it's erasure. You are not being true to yourself, and any connection built on that kind of suppression will eventually collapse under its own weight. The courage to choose real over easy is rare, but it is everything. We've been taught to be agreeable, to keep the peace, to smile even when it hurts. But what if peace is not the absence of tension, but the presence of truth? What if the kindest thing you can do is say, no more? Not in anger, not in spite, but in self-respect. When your kindness starts costing you your clarity, your sleep, your confidence, or your dignity, it's no longer noble. It's a quiet wound repeated daily. And that wound deserves to be healed. Insight 5. The courage to be real. In a world that praises politeness over truth, being real can feel radical. We've been conditioned to believe that being liked is more important than being known, that it's safer to be agreeable than to be authentic. But every time we choose to be nice at the cost of being honest, we reinforce the belief that our truth is too heavy, too much, too inconvenient. True kindness is not about pleasing everyone. It's about having the courage to show up as yourself without apology. That means speaking even when your voice shakes. It means honoring your needs even when it disappoints someone else. It means letting go of the need to be liked by everyone so you can be deeply respected by the right ones. Real kindness doesn't shrink you, it expands you. It creates space for your values, your limits, your messy humanity. And yes, it might upset some people. Not everyone will celebrate your truth, but the ones who matter, who truly see you, love you, and want what's best for you, will not only stay, they will grow with you. There's a quiet kind of strength in someone who knows their own boundaries, who says no, not out of anger, but out of clarity, who chooses presence over perfection and honesty over harmony. That kind of person isn't cold. They're courageous. And courage is contagious. As Brené Brown says, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot have both. When you choose to be real, you invite others to be real with you. You create relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, not silent sacrifice. You build connection on truth, not performance. So no, being real won't always feel easy, but it will always feel like freedom. Thank you for being here. If this message spoke to something inside you, take it with you. Let it remind you that kindness doesn't mean self-sacrifice and boundaries are not a betrayal. They are an act of love. You don't have to be everything for everyone. You just have to be real. Until next time, be kind, be clear, be true to yourself.